So, hello everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. I wanted to take this session in person, but due to Diwali holidays, I think it would be too late if we postpone it much further. I think Shaurya has given you a brief outlay of what we are trying to achieve by doing this project. But still, I am sure that many of you would have a lot of doubts. And most importantly, करना क्या है अभी, आज क्या करना है, कल क्या करना है, अगले हफ्ते क्या करना है. ये issues जो practical issues है ये रहेंगे. In theory, we are all very well versed with what we are supposed to do, but there might be some problems in execution, or maintaining the kind of enthusiasm that is needed, putting in the efforts, and in general direction क्या रहेगा उसके ऊपर we will discuss. I'll introduce you to some concepts in 15-20 minutes, and after that we'll have a brainstorming session. If you have any doubts, then you can ask those doubts. This session will be most of the content will be from the course that you have done. If you have not completed the Johns Hopkins course, my suggestion is that you do it as soon as possible, so that at least as far as theory is concerned, we'll all be on the same page. So knowledge case will be on the same page, and then we can chart out what needs to be done next. So the first thing that we need to know is what exactly is a social influencer. Now, all of you guys, you know what a social influencer is. The key word here is that a person who has gained credibility regarding a certain niche has to be called a social influencer. So the first thing you will strive to achieve is credibility. By the very fact that you are medical students, most of you are MBBS students, you do have certain credibility in the eyes of people that you know. So we want to exploit this credibility that you have and utilize it to bring about a positive behavior change. And the niche that we are targeting is smoking and smokeless tobacco use. So ideally, you should already have a devoted following on social media. Maybe few of your friends, maybe relatives, maybe people that you know from your town, place, anywhere. Okay, and those people, if they value your opinion, if they follow you on social media, they like the taste of the content that you post, and they enjoy watching you update on social media, they will be knowingly or unknowingly influenced by the things that you are saying. And that would influence their decision in terms of purchasing, in terms of their worldview regarding smoking in particular. So, what we usually want is to give social proof. A social influencer should be able to give social proof. So everyone wants to fit in. Everyone wants to hang out with the cool guys, and so there are people whose behavior affects the behavior of the rest of the crowd. Their personal behavior and even their susceptibility to addictions. So we want to utilize you guys to give social proof against smoking. Okay. Now, what are you supposed to do? You have to basically hammer or subliminally continuously impress upon your friends, on your followers, that smoking is not cool, smoking kills, smoking is bad for health, and they should not smoke, right? It is not okay to smoke, and if they do smoke, they can change, right? You do not need to judge them, but at the same time, you need to make sure that they make an concentrated effort to quit smoking, and then you should be there to help them out through thick and thin when they are trying to quit smoking, right? Now, you need to know what makes people tick, right? So if you see the first picture of the boy who is smoking, they have just applied a different filter, so he looks kind of cool, brooding kind of person, and it might even look cool for that person to be smoking. But if you look at the same person in a different light, you'll find that the person is crying while he's smoking. So most of the smokers, they suffer from depression, they suffer from anxiety, they suffer from loneliness, they have self-esteem issues, and we need to address those issues as well. So for those young people who are contemplating to begin smoking, you need to impress that there is nothing cool about smoking. Smoking is not for winners. Smoking is for losers. But if you are a loser who is a smoker, and we can help you out to, and make you become a winner, right? And there are certain things, 100 images of CA lung cannot do what this one image does, right? Smoking leads to impotence, and therefore you must quit smoking. So a very effective ad will get to the crux of the issue, address a point which the target audience is really concerned about, right? So a probability of getting CA lung 10, 20 years down the line may not induce a person to quit smoking. But the probability that the person might suffer from impotence in 3 to 5 years might certainly make them rethink about their smoking habits. So you need to be able to highlight these issues in a interesting manner, right? So behavior change communication. It is it is most difficult to change the behavior of a person. The most difficult thing is to change the behavior of a person. जो कुत्ते की पूंछ है वो टेढ़ी की टेढ़ी रहती है. For some time they might believe that they want to quit smoking, but what usually happens is 10, 15 days later they resume the behavior. So it is very difficult for them to quit smoking because smoking has a physical dependence as well as a psychological dependence. So there are certain theories, certain models that we use. The first one that you should know about is the health belief theory. So a person, if he's told about the pros and cons, and if he thinks that the pros of quitting outweigh the cons, then he will change his behavior. He'll be willing to change his behavior. But what happens is that this is a short-lived phenomena. Reinforcement is often needed. So, for example, the patient allows an intern doctor to draw a blood sample once a day if he feels that it is going to help him get rid of the disease. But if the intern is not able to get the blood sample after multiple attempts, then the cons of giving the blood sample outweigh the pros of giving the blood sample, and the patient will stop the intern from making any further attempts. Also, if you start taking his blood sample daily, again he will stop you saying कि नहीं नहीं वो बीमारी ठीक होगी तब होगी मैं हमारा खुद निकालना बंद करो, right? So depending on how much the patient values the convenience that he is going to feel later on, uh, that will determine how much inconvenience he is ready to suffer right now. So smoking is one of those things that once you quit smoking, it leads to a lot of inconvenience in your daily life. So people are not often willing, even if they know it is good for them. Inconvenience stops them from quitting smoking. So you need to be forthright कि तेरे को ये problem होने वाला है. You will suffer from constipation. You will suffer from irritability. You will suffer from headaches. Be uh, you will not be able to concentrate on your studies for a week or so. But if you succeed in quitting for a week, you will be as good as normal. In 3 months, you will stop getting the cravings completely, and in 1 year, you'll be a completely changed person. So you need to constantly motivate them, especially once they have quit. The most important thing is to help prevent the relapse. The second theory is the theory of planned action. Our behavior is dependent on two things: how much do we want to do that particular thing, and what will people say, right? So subjective norms. Okay. In case of smoking, the desire to indulge in that attitude is very high. But what used to happen is that uh, 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 social pressure of not smoking in public was so high, not smoking in front of family, friends was so high that people used to refrain from smoking in public at least. But now what has happened is that it has become okay. So in your peer group with your girlfriend, it is okay for a person to smoke. So if the person is made to feel that it is not okay, it is not a norm that you should be able to smoke freely, then the person is less likely to engage in that behavior. At the same time, the person's attitude is indirectly influenced by what people think of it. So if they feel that it is okay to smoke, then they would want to smoke. So planned action should be such that social norms should prevent a person from smoking. We already have got rules against public smoking. We can even push for a smoke free campus, right? And that would ultimately affect the attitude of a person towards smoking. The third thing is the social cognitive theory, where the phenomena of reciprocal determinism comes into play. What this thing you must have seen in your PSF textbook, the epidemiological triangle. What the theory says ki it is not a one-way street, it is a two-way thing. So if you are living in a slum area where everybody is smoking, you are more likely to begin smoking. And because you are more smoking and living in a slum area, you are more likely to stay in that situation. You are less likely to get out of that area, socially as far as your behavior is concerned. So there is a positive feedback mechanism that occurs. There is a vicious cycle that occurs. So your friend circle, your environment, your own behavior will reinforce each other. So you'll begin smoking because you are depressed. Your depression will increase. You will isolate yourself socially. You will hang out with the wrong crowd, which will further exacerbate your depression, further worsen your health and your prospect of a happy life. So there is a reciprocal determinism. Each thing feeds off the other thing, right? So how do we treat this? We treat this by operant conditioning and nudging. We'll discuss that later, how you are going to use those models. Now, the first thing is that when you ask a person, the most important thing is ask a person to quit. Just go and try it. Many a times, what happens is that we don't ask people to quit, right? Even people that we know, people who are there, we are afraid to advise somebody to quit, right? So the first thing is the person may not contemplate uh, quitting, but once you ask him, he may contemplate quitting, right? Then you prepare him, plan him, help him out. You anticipate certain problems that he's going to have when the person quits, right? And then you prepare them to fight against those problems. And then you actually get them to quit. Once they do quit, then you need to really put in efforts to help them keep going. There is a book, Tipping Point. If you have not read the book, I suggest that you read. It's a good read. Tipping Point. So socially, what happens is there needs to be a certain critical mass, certain percentage of people who need to believe in an idea for that idea to become a mainstream idea. Right? What we can do as social influencers is to get smoking cessation to a tipping point. Already a lot of work has been done and people have started to realize in developed countries especially, people have begun to do it at a very higher rates. Same thing we have to do in India, especially in middle income countries and lower income countries. We need to make continuously bombard the social media, continuously impress upon young people that it is not cool to smoke and it is a great thing to quit smoking. Right? What happened with eye donation? What happened with pulse polio? So continuous mass media campaigns can really turn around, really change people's behavior consciously or subconsciously. They would start thinking of smoking as a bad thing they should not do, and they would think that quitting smoking is a achievement worth having. Right? So we need to help them reach a tipping point, for which we need to uh, help the communities to mobilize, and we need to make people feel that they do have a choice, right? So even if somebody is not smoking, you must be able to influence them in such a way that they should be able to guide, counsel their friends who are smokers or who use tobacco to quit. Okay, the points that you need to keep in mind that I realized is that we have not uh, really emphasized this to be non-judgmental. The moment I start lecturing you, you go on autopilot mode, right? So you sermonize to a person, they will go into autopilot mode. They will stop listening. You criticize somebody, they will stop listening. So the first thing is not to be judgmental, right? To frame your uh, question about smoking as requests, to make sure that you are not patronizing the person, or maybe you are not preaching the person. To be clear, that tobacco is the villain and not the user. What usually happens is we demonize the people who smoke, and that should not be done. It is an addiction just like any addiction, and then it is difficult to quit. So what you will realize once you start giving them advices, it is very difficult to quit, and precisely that is why your work is going to matter. So even if you are able to convince a few people, 10, 15 people to quit, still you would have achieved a lot. And if the person is convinced that tobacco is bad, don't help waste your time in harping on that same fact. You give him practical tips that will help him quit, right? So in first 5 minutes, if you are interacting with someone, they realize, yeah, 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 I completely agree with you. Tobacco is bad. I want to quit. What should I do? Then you immediately switch on to your intervention mode. You need to be able to advise them what exactly they should do, and always give positive reinforcements. In this study, what we are looking for is basically commitment. You will find that शुरू में everybody is really happy, then the group stops. Group पे कोई update नहीं होता है, कोई करने देने वाला होता है. And we being schooled in the Indian system, we always look up to somebody else. Somebody else will tell me what I need to do, and then I'll start doing it. एंड आई हैव हर्ड कि हमको पता नहीं क्या करना है, हमको बताओ क्या करना है. तो हमने बता दिया है, यू टेक द इनिशिएटिव, यू डू समथिंग. It may not be perfect. Nobody can be perfect. Your memes will be shoddy. Your work, your ये will not be good enough. But we'll help you through it. And once you start sharing those pics, you will get feedback from people, and you will improve on your own. So to begin is very important. So from today itself, you start sharing some material on your social media outlets. It may be Twitter, it may be Facebook, it may be Insta, whatever. You start sharing, you start getting feedback, you see what works, you see what doesn't work, and over a period of months, you will develop an idea, you will understand what works and what doesn't work. And you should have the desire and ability to communicate. What usually happens is people don't like to communicate unnecessarily. बात करने में जान पे आता है. So ये नहीं होना चाहिए. You should have a desire to communicate with people with lower IQs than you. So it is all fun to communicate with people who agree with you, who understand you, but it is a bother to communicate with people who have lower IQs than you have, and that is what is required actually. And you should have a flair for social media. There must be consistency and active participation, and most importantly, patience. So anything that needs to be done, while it will test your patience. So you should have patience, and things will work out for the better. What do we want you to do? You choose your niche. So if you are going to target school going audience, you prepare content for that. If you are going to target your medical colleagues, if you are going to target engineering students, if you are going to target women, you tailor your content accordingly. You make sure that you have access to your audience. So you join those groups, you get access to those, you form those groups separately, and then you start working on them. Prepare a content calendar. वीकली तुम एक एक चीज क्या क्या करना है, उसको एक नोटबुक में भी लिख लिया, अगर हर हफ्ते एक एक चीज करना क्या है, So that will be of immense help. Then you generate traffic. How to get more likes? How to get people who are popular to share your content? That you need to think about. Collaborate with other influencers, certain professional influencers. You can request them, you can ask them, you can do a podcast, maybe you can do an interview, maybe you can get them to give you a shout out on their group, so that your audience will increase, right? And make sure that you are doing it for a non-profit purpose, and then they might be more willing to help you out. Be engaging, make it easy and safe for users to contact you. People are not very keen on contacting persons because of privacy issues. So ensure that those who are seeking help, their privacy is maintained, and follow up irrespective of success or failure. Even if the person who wants to quit fails to quit, you still follow up, you still keep in touch with that person. Maybe 1 month down the line, he may again want to quit and might require your help. So just don't abandon somebody if they have failed to, meet up to your expectations. So these are the things you should keep in mind, and I think we should ramp up our endeavors. I'll ask Shaurya to take you to on a visit to the cessation center. You can scan the booklet that we have prepared and share it with everybody. You can have a look at the case sheet, patient cue cards, education material that we have prepared. You should know how to refer a patient, and you should know how to give the correct advice. And all these things you will be briefed about during your visit to the cessation center. So this is the 5A, 5R approach. You will know that once